The New York Giants held their third OTA of the spring on Thursday, and media was allowed access for the first time. So here are some impressions of what we saw on Thursday in East Rutherford, New Jersey, from the Giants. Ed Valentine of Big Blue View here. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right, the first thing we have to talk about is quarterback Daniel Jones. We had heard on Monday and Tuesday, OTAs 1 and 2, that Jones did work in 7-on-7 drills. We saw that for ourselves on Thursday. Jones looked good moving around, did work in 7-on-7 drills, wearing no brace on his surgically repaired knee. Looked to be moving well, threw the ball pretty well. Uh, when he was done doing 7-on-7, with practice being held inside due to thunderstorms that came about just before practice was supposed to start. Uh, when the rain stopped, Jones actually went outside and threw more. So Jones looks good. He looks healthy. He said on Thursday when he spoke to reporters that he has no doubt that he will be ready for Week 1. Jones was a little bit feisty in his press conference on Thursday. Said that he feels like he's a really driven player. Said he always feels like he has things to prove. uh, you could tell that he knew that he saw the reports. He knew that the Giants tried to trade up and get Drake May. He knows that there's been speculation that Drew Lock could compete with him for the starting job. You can tell that Daniel Jones was bothered a little bit by all of that I want to say annoyed. The phrase that he used um, when he was asked about the possibility that the Giants would draft a quarterback as an eventual replacement for him, he said he wasn't fired up about that idea. He does seem to be fired up about the addition of Malik Neighbors to the offense. He seems to feel really good about the way he feels physically. um, he said that he will just continue to push to do more and more, push to do as much as the trainers and the coaches will ask him to do. Said that he's always motivated and that all he can do about any of the chatter that's going on, about any of the speculation about his future, all he can do is prepare and play the best football he can possibly play, and and see what happens from there. But Jones, it was interesting because usually he's very placid, but you could tell there was a little bit of an edge to him today, a little bit and I know what everybody thinks. I know what the situation is here, and that he feels like he has a lot to prove in the 2024 season, which he of course does, coming off of his injury and not having played well a season ago. Obviously we'll have to wait and see how things go for Jones, but I did think it was interesting today that he did show a little bit of an edge. He did show some awareness that the Giants have been working or did consider the idea of drafting a successor, and that he knows there is an expectation or on the parts of some people that Drew Lock could take some of his playing time in 2024. We'll see if all of that motivates Jones to be more like the 2022 version of Jones, the best football he's played in his career, than what we saw a year ago when Jones simply wasn't good in an offense that really never had a chance to be good. Another interesting thing that we saw on Thursday is an indication that head coach Brian Daboll might call plays. in 2024. That's something we've speculated on quite a bit. That's something that, frankly, I actually expect and have expected really since the end of last season to be the case this year. This is a big year for Daboll. He's under some pressure, whether you want to say he's on the hot seat or not. That's up to you. I don't know how warm his seat is at this point in time, but it's a big year for the Giants, who've had one good year and one bad year under his direction. I've expected all along that Daboll, who called plays at four different stops in the NFL as an offensive coordinator and got the Giants head coaching job because of his work in Buffalo as a coordinator with Josh Allen and a highly successful offense with the Bills. I've expected all along that he would take over that duty this coming season. Dable has not confirmed whether he will or will not, but on Thursday, it certainly appeared to be Brian Dable calling the plays during the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 periods, during those team periods. It certainly looked like it was Dable calling the plays. So we'll see how that develops. But the indication right now would be that Brian Dable looks poised to take over the play calling from offensive coordinator Mike Kafka in 2024. Another interesting thing that we learned on Thursday when we had a chance to talk to defensive position coaches, talking to defensive line coach Andre Patterson, and we learned that Patterson this year is working some with the edge defenders. He's working some with Kayvon Thibodeau. He's working with Brian Burns, Aziz Ojolari. He's working with that group on pass rush. Patterson referred to that as a huge change in his responsibilities, a huge change in the way that the Giants go about putting together their defense. Kayvon Thibodeau was asked about that, and he seems to love the change. He referred to Patterson as the Mr. Miyagi of defensive line coaches, as a guy who has tons of experience and has all of the knowledge and all of the answers. Uh, we've speculated for a couple of years that Thibodeau, in particular, could benefit from learning some pass rush from Patterson, who's worked successfully in the past, not only with the Giants, Dexter Lawrence, who's playing the best football of his career with Patterson as his coach, but he's worked with guys like Daniil Hunter, John Randall, Chris Dolman. Former Giant Linval Joseph played the best football of his career under Patterson's direction. So Patterson has experience also working not only with interior down linemen, but guys who have rushed off the edge. And I've always thought that Patterson teaches a slightly different technique. He teaches some different things that other guys don't teach. In fact, he said on Thursday, doesn't matter who the coordinator is, it doesn't matter what the scheme is, in terms of how he teaches guys to use their hands, how he teaches them to use their leverage, the techniques that he teaches. He said those things don't change no matter what scheme the coordinator runs. He said he teaches what he teaches. And I've always thought that Thibodeau in particular could really benefit from that. As I said, Thibodeau seemed excited about the idea. One of the things that Thibodeau said was that he felt like there wasn't real cohesion between the defensive line group and the edge group in years past. He feels like this sort of more concerted effort between Patterson and new outside linebackers coach Charlie Bullen um, will pay dividends just in terms of cohesion and togetherness for the unit. Coach Bullen, new outside linebackers coach, hired after the Giants hired Shane Bowen as defensive coordinator. Bowen also seemed excited about the idea, said he enjoyed working with Patterson. Um, said that it's about getting players to play their best, no matter who teaches them, no matter how you get there. So he's on board with the idea. And I thought that was interesting. It's something that at Big Blue View we've thought could be a real benefit to Kayvon Thibodeau. So we'll see if that helps both Thibodeau and the entire Giants front seven during the 2024 season. A couple of offensive line notes. Andrew Thomas, left tackle, and Evan Neal at right tackle didn't participate in any of the 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 periods on Sunday. That left Josh Azudu playing left tackle with the first group. It left Yadni Kajust playing right tackle with the first group. Matt Nelson signed as a free agent, didn't work in any of the team periods. Jermaine Illuminor, who could be a swing tackle for the Giants this year, could be the starting right tackle if Evan Neal doesn't show enough progress. Illuminor lined up at left guard. John Runyon Jr., signed in free agency, was playing at right guard. Brian Daboll said that those two guys mostly have worked in those spots so far this spring, didn't commit to them being in those exact spots, week one of the season. Also didn't commit to a timeline for settling the starting group in terms of whether Neal would stay at right tackle. Didn't commit to a timeline. I would hope that the Giants don't go as far as they did last year, where they didn't settle on a starting group until right before week one of the regular season. I would hope that by the time training camp begins, that they have that settled and they allow what they want the starting five to be, to work together as much as possible. I wouldn't freak out about who was at the tackle positions today. It's the end of May. It's not even mini camp, it's a voluntary OTA. Not everybody was working. So I don't know if the Giants will use Azudu as a tackle. He struggled today against Brian Burns, which a lot of people have struggled against Brian Burns, so that wasn't a surprise. It's one of those deals where somebody had to be out there during the practice, and Azudu got that job today. Uh, like I said, I'm not going to worry about the fact that he may have struggled out there. Azudu also did some work inside at guard. We'll see how all of that shakes out. But I don't think you're going to see Josh Azudu play on left tackle during regular season games again this year. So I'm not going to get all fired up about the fact that he was doing that on May 23rd to help the Giants get through a practice. All right, one more thing: tight end Darren Waller, wide receiver Darius Slayton were among those who weren't at practice on Thursday. Waller, of course, still considering retiring. Uh, Brian Daboll said that the Giants are just going to allow Waller to make that decision, and whenever he makes it, he makes it. Um, in terms of Slayton, Daboll said he has talked to Slayton. Slayton does have a contract. Um, so sooner or later, once we get to mandatory mini camp here in a couple of weeks, I think that's June 11 to 13. Perhaps by then we'll have clarity on whether or not Waller intends to play, and we'll have to see at that point if Darius Slayton decides to show up. Everything at this point has been voluntary, no requirement to show up. So that his not being present can't be considered a holdout. I know Slayton would like a contract extension. He'd like more money after once again being the Giants' leading receiver in 2023. I think that's 4 out of his 5 NFL seasons. that he has actually been their best statistical wide receiver. We'll see where that goes. We'll see exactly how unhappy Slayton is by whether or not he decides to show up when we do get to the mandatory mini camp. All right, I did want to say one more thing about Daniel Jones and the quarterback situation. Lots of discussion about whether Drew Lock truly is competing to be the starting quarterback, how much Lock might play. Would the Giants pull the plug on Jones at some point due to the injury guarantee for Jones in 2025, depending on how the season goes? And Drew Lock didn't have a great day on Thursday. He was kind of erratic. He threw a nice deep ball for a touchdown to Malik Neighbors, but he was off target on quite a few balls, missed quite a few wide open receivers. I did not track throw by throw what his completion numbers were. So I'm not even going to try to guess. I think Dan Duggan of The Athletic threw out a number, but and not that I don't trust Dan, his number's probably accurate, but I didn't even try to track it. So I'm not going to even go there in terms of telling you what it might have been. But Locke was very erratic, and I actually heard someone say after practice, maybe Daniel Jones' best argument for staying as the Giants quarterback is for him to continue to let Drew Lock run 11 on 11 drills. And the way that Lock threw I mean, that's funny, it's snarky, it may or may not be fair, this early in the spring, in the third OTA, but the point was well taken because Drew Lock didn't look good on Thursday. That may have been a bad day. It may have been just a few off target throws. We'll have to see how things go, but it was interesting. If Lock wants to make the Giants consider benching Daniel Jones, uh, for for a reason other than injury or the injury guarantee, he's going to have to show more than he did on Thursday. And I'm not making any judgments off of one practice, but Thursday wasn't a great day for Drew Lock. We'll see as we get to some other OTAs, as we get to mini camp and training camp. We'll see if he looks a little bit sharper than he did on Thursday. Anyway, Giants fans, that's a quick look at some of what we saw, some of what we learned. Please check out our coverage at bigblueview.com for even more on OTAs, for even more on your New York Giants as we get through the spring and then the early part of the summer as we grind toward training camp and wait for things to really begin to crank up. All right, thank you for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.